when you gotta take a break from listening to a musical's cast album to film your video about said musical. Hi there friends, if you're new to my channel, my name's Nicole, and today I am here to talk to you about the novel The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins and the musical The Woman in White with music by Andrew Lloyd Webber. So what I want to do today is kind of talk about my review of the book, my review of the musical as an adaptation of the book, and then a few thoughts on the musical itself, this new production at Charing Cross Theatre here in London. Because I'm going to do a full written review on my blog of the musical later, but I'm definitely going to see it again, so I kind of want to see it a second time before I write my full review of it, and I also might wait and publish it after press night as well, just so that it's not awkwardly super early. But I did want to go ahead and share some thoughts while they're all so fresh and new in my head. So The Woman was actually kind of a funny thing for me because it was the first casting to be announced really after I found out that I was moving to London back in, I guess, July. And I was so excited for it because it was kind of the first experience where I saw that three of my favorite actors, Chris Plusso, Anna O'Byrne, and Carolyn Maitland, were cast in the show, and then I was like, oh my god, I can go see it. I'll be there. So I've been really looking forward to it. I actually bought my ticket for last night months ago. And by last night, I mean I'm filming this on Tuesday, so I went to the first preview on Monday, November 20th, even though this won't be going up until Wednesday probably. But I bought my ticket months in advance with some of my birthday money, so I had a really nice seat in the 4th row, which was amazing. But a couple of weeks ago I was in Waterstones and I was picking up a Dickens book because I've just started working at the Charles Dickens Museum, or volunteering at the Charles Dickens Museum, and I saw that they also had this gorgeous edition of Wilkie Collins, The Woman in White. And now if you don't know, Wilkie Collins is actually a really good friend of Charles Dickens, and I'm really trying to immerse myself in all things Victorian right now to be able to be a better museum employee. And so I thought I would pick this up as well because I didn't want to listen to any of the music before going in. The only thing I'd heard was The Woman in White released a kind of cute little music video of Ashley Stillburn and Anna O'Byrne singing, oh god, what is it called? I Believe in You, I think. Which I listen to all the time now, but that was the only music that I'd heard, so I purposely wanted to keep myself in the dark in terms of the music because it's so rare that I get to go into an Andrew Lloyd Webber show not already knowing it. But I thought it would be nice to know the plot or what it's based on. It says that it's freely based on the novel, I think, which makes sense whenever you see it. I also have to say I love the Penguin English Library editions of this book. I think this is gorgeous. It's gotten a bit beat up because I've carried it with me. It's been my constant companion for the past 2 weeks, but I'm loving it. So I want to start out with my review of the novel itself. Now, The Woman in White is, on the back it says it's the first and greatest of the best-selling Victorian thrillers known as sensation novels. And oh my god, is this a thriller. It is over 700 pages. I got through it in about, I think 15 or 16 days because I flew through. I also was trying to finish it by going to the show, but honestly, I would have read it at that speed anyways, even though I'm in school and doing so much reading for class, because it's thrilling. It has this amazing cast of characters. It is in so many ways a thriller and a suspense novel and almost a mystery in parts, but what I really love about it is the characters. So the basic plot, I don't want to give away too much in case you want to read it, because I definitely recommend that you do. But the basic plot is that there is this man named Walter Hartwright. He is a drawing teacher. He's an artist. And he is hired by Mr. Fairley, who's this older invalid man, to be the drawing master for his 2 nieces, Marian Holcomb and Laura Fairley, at Limerick House out in the countryside. So he goes there, and Laura is this beautiful, kind young woman, so of course they fall madly in love. Marian is Laura's older half-sister who has no fortune of her own, but she is really content as long as she and Laura are never separated because they are so close that she will be perfectly happy. And kind of all this comes to a head whenever Laura's fiance, who her father basically arranged her marriage to whenever he was still living, Sir Percival Glide comes, and Walter is heartbroken and he leaves, and Laura is heartbroken. Everyone's heartbroken, basically. But Sir Percival Glide isn't everything that he seems to be. He seems to be the perfect gentleman, and maybe he isn't. Now, the other part of the novel kind of revolves around Anne Catrick, who is this girl who has escaped from a mental asylum. So of course it's got that kind of Victorian fascination with insanity. And she says that she knows the secret of Sir Percival Glide's and that she has to tell Laura because she has to save her life. So as you can see, there's a lot of suspense. There's this beautiful cast of characters. I think in so many ways the novel feels so modern, and part of that is that it's actually told as though like Walter is collecting testimony for a trial maybe. So it switches narrators a lot, and they're called narratives. So like it'll be the narrative is told by Walter Hartwright, and then he goes away, so what's filled in is like there's a part that's from Marian's diary. Then Walter does come back as the narrator, which is great because he's my favorite narrator. But the narrators are everyone from like the housekeeper to the family lawyer to Count Fosco, who is Sir Percival Glide's like Italian friend who you never really know if he's good or bad. So it's a really cool thing, and then it switches first person point of view a lot, which I really enjoyed. I'm not typically crazy about first person books, but I really enjoyed this one. I also have to say I love the character of Marian. She's so amazing. She's kind of this new woman in the Victorian age because she's really a go-getter. She's described as being not ugly, but not attractive. She's, you know, obviously she and Laura have different fathers, but she is smart, she is daring, and she and Walter are like best friends, and they both love Laura more than anything in this world, and I really appreciate that part of it. I also have to say, I think that Walter Hartwright is like my favorite romantic hero of a novel ever. Like I would say he is better than all of Jane Austen's men, which is a crazy thing for me to be putting out there, but because so often in like Jane Austen novels or even in like Bronte novels, men who are kind and good and sweet also have no backbone. And Walter, he's an artist, he's a drawing master, he falls in love with Laura, but he's super close to his mom and his sister. He is really lovely, but he gets stuff done. A lot of the novel revolves around him trying to solve a crime. He respects Marian and he respects Laura. He's just the kind of character that you don't expect to find in a novel from this time period, and he's wonderful. Alright, so I think that's enough about this novel. Like I said, I love the style, I love the characters, I love the plot. I definitely will be rereading it, and I'm literally telling everyone I know to read it. I know that like my friend Erin had actually read it in a Victorian literature class, so it's known as Wilkie Collins' best novel, and actually a fun fact, whenever he was dying, he said that he wanted on his epitaph, his, you know, gravestone, to say author of The Woman in White, even though it wasn't like overwhelmingly his most popular book at that time, because there's another book of his, The Moonstone, that also was quite popular, but he had an idea that this would be the novel that lasted, and I think he was definitely right. So highly recommend this. I would probably reread it at some point in 2018 because it's the kind of book that you finish it and you don't want to be done with the characters, like you just want more. Now, moving on to the musical. Also, let me address what this is. So at one point in the musical, Sir Percival Glide and some companions throw like fake banknotes out into the audience, and I was quite close to the front, so I got one. And I took it. I'm sorry if anyone at Charing Cross Theatre is watching this, but I wanted like something to hold up in the video, and they didn't have their programs in yet. They're getting their programs next week, so I couldn't buy a program yet. I'll be back and we'll get one then. It's my excuse to go back. But yeah, so I've got a banknote from Sir Percival Glide. Okay, so in many ways, I think that The Woman in White is very much the epitome of an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. It's got this sweeping epic music, these love triangles, these returning melodies. Like there's this one melody that comes in over and over and over again. Well, there's two really. There's this one, All for Laura, that's kind of Marian's repeating theme. And then there's this thing where there's like so many songs where they just all sing like Sir Percival Glide, and kind of cracked me up every time, but like not in a bad way. I really love it. It's the kind of musical that in some ways I feel like you don't see anymore. In some ways it definitely feels like the sister to something like Phantom of the Opera or Les Mis, or that kind of thing where there's a lot of sung just dialogue, which is not everyone's taste, and I totally get that. It's definitely my taste. I loved it. It's got these gorgeous melodies, these beautiful soprano roles, and I think this production particularly is quite good. I want to address some things first about like the musical as an adaptation of the book before I talk about this production briefly, very specifically. But it's an interesting adaptation of the book. It's good. It's better. There's an older movie version of The Woman in White that I watched and I didn't like. And they are actually making a BBC miniseries of it that should come out in 2018, so I'm very interested to see what that's like. They did obviously change a lot of stuff. It's a 700-page book. You can't fit that into like a 2.5 hour musical. Obviously, for, you know. So I totally get them changing stuff. I'm not one of those people who's like a book purist. I think that the musical deals with several characters really well. The portrayal of Sir Percival Glide, I think it's brilliant, the way it's written, of Laura, of Walter Hartright. I really like Marian. I really dislike, spoilers, they set up a love triangle between Marian, Walter, and Laura, which I hated. There's already 2 love triangles in the book. I don't know why they felt the need for a third. One of my favorite things in the book is actually that Walter and Marian are best friends. They are very close. They're bound by this fact that they both love Laura more than anyone else in the world. And actually, Marian refers to Walter several times as her best friend, but they also refer to each other as sister and brother a lot. And I really appreciate that. I'm a sucker for a male-female platonic friendship, probably because some of my best friends are guys. And it's so rare to find one in a novel from this time that there's a part of me that hates that they did that, even though it, resulted in all this beautiful music from Marian in the show. But I'm not sure that I agree with that choice. One thing that I find really interesting is, so I think I already said that a lot of it revolves around that Sir Percival has the secret. The secret in the book was changed for the musical. It's something different, a bit more dramatic, a bit more shocking. What I find interesting is it was actually changed to something completely different in the movie that I watched. So I'm really curious when this BBC miniseries comes out if we're going to get a 4th version of the secret, or if it's going to go with the one from the book, or if it's going to go with one of the other ones. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I get why they did it because it is a lot more dramatic. But I do feel like there's some plot holes in the musical, like things where you're like, well, why would they know that at that time? But the plot of the novel is really complex. It honestly, like, at times is kind of hard to follow. Not in a bad way, but just in the way that, like, a mystery novel or a suspense novel can be. So I get those choices. One of the things that I do really appreciate about the musical is that it gives Laura a lot more agency that she gets in the novel. In the novel, Marian is very much the active character, kind of progressive for her time even, and Laura is completely passive. There are a couple instances where she stands up for herself and she tries to help, but it's very much Marian and Walter doing things for her. Whereas in the musical, Laura gets her own chance to stand up for herself, to save herself with the help of Marian and Walter, and I really appreciated that, giving her that bit more agency that she can't really get in a Victorian novel. Overall, I don't think it's the best adaptation of a book I've ever seen. Like, for example, I really prefer the Phantom of the Opera musical to the Phantom of the Opera book. I think that it improved on the original plotline and the original characters. Whereas this, I do think I like the novel slightly more, but at the same time, like, I think it's the best version of a musical that you can make out of the novel. I will also quickly say that I don't have a program to, like, give me the song list right now, but I've been listening to the original cast album on Spotify, and some of my favorite songs from it are definitely All for Laura, which is one of Marian's big songs. I also love, I think it's Evermore Without You, which is one of Walter's, like, big Act 2 solo. And also, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's I Believe My Heart, which is the big Laura and Walter duet. So moving on to address this production specifically. So the show was, also I'll just say real quick, it was music by Andrew Lloyd Webber, lyrics by David Zippel, I think is how you say it, and book by Charlotte Jones. It is a limited 12-week run, so you only have 3 months to see it, so definitely go ahead and get your tickets now. And it's running at Charing Cross Theatre, which is right by Charing Cross and Embankment Station, so really easy to get to. It's a really interesting theatre space. I believe it seats like 288. I know it's under 300, so it's quite an intimate space. And at first I was a little worried because I was like, all right, this is clearly like a big epic musical. What's it gonna look like in a tiny space? But they pared down the production from the original. The original production ran on Broadway and in the West End. It didn't do super well. It didn't, like, flop necessarily, but it wasn't a big commercial success. And so part of what they've done with this one is pared it down so that it's not as expensive to run, from my understanding, while still being a really beautiful show. It's also got a fairly small cast. I think there's like a dozen people in the cast, including the ensemble, which I actually really like whenever you can pull off a show with that amount of casting. And I will start by saying the sets are beautiful. They're so gorgeous. There's part of it that almost seems like an optical illusion, which is really cool. And the costumes are stunning. Like, they may be my favorite costumes I've seen thus far in London. The women's costumes, like, I love everything that Marian wore, everything that Laura wore. I thought that what they put Anne Catrick in was perfect. But also, I think Sir Percival Glide's costumes were my favorite. He had all these top hats and these colored jackets and waistcoats, and it was just really glorious, lovely stuff. So I want to address a couple of different people's performances. Like I said, I'm going to write a full review later and I'll address every member of the cast there. First of all, a huge shout out to Sophie Reeves, who plays Anne Catrick, because she did it brilliantly. She has this strong, powerful voice, but she definitely portrayed this woman who is in despair, who is perhaps not entirely mentally there. You know, she portrayed that so well, and you really felt for her. Honestly, my heart broke a bit for Anne Catrick, which was exactly what you want to happen. So a huge shout out to Sophie. Next, moving on, Anna O'Byrne is the perfect Laura Fairley. Obviously, Anna is like ethereally beautiful, especially in these gorgeous costumes. And she is a glorious soprano. The first thing I ever saw Anna, and this is my first time seeing her live in something, but I saw her in the filmed Australian version of Love Never Dies as Christine. And she has a glorious, glorious soprano voice. But it has so much power behind it. I think that oftentimes, and this is not me like shading sopranos, but you don't always get that. And she also is one of those actresses who every second that she is on stage, she is acting, she's reacting, she's completely in the character, and I thought that she was just brilliant in every way. Moving on, I have to talk about Chris Peluso as Sir Percival Glide. Now, I know Chris from seeing him in like West End live performances from things like Miss Saigon, where he played Chris. He actually replaced Alistair Brammer in the role, so I never got to see him, which was sad. He also was in Showboat recently as Gaylord Ravenel, so he's played these very morally gray heroes, so it's interesting to see him playing a morally gray villain. But he brings such charm to the role that it makes you like him, even though you get the feeling that he's bad. He's very good at being like charming and suspicious at the same time. His voice is lovely and definitely suits the role so well. I think like I would love to see him in some more Andrew Lloyd Webber work after this, maybe. I also have to say, whenever I started reading the novel, I hadn't actually looked to see like who was cast as what yet. I just knew who was in it. And I got maybe 50 pages in before I had to go look, and I was like, please tell me that Ashley Stillburn is playing Walter Hartright, because he's exactly what I'm picturing in the role. And he was, which is amazing. Ashley's so talented. He has a lovely, lovely voice. It's funny because I was like, I know that I've seen him in something. I can't think of what it was. And I realized that I saw him in Les Mis whenever he was in the ensemble, and he was the Enjolras understudy. He was in it. He was the understudy of Michael Colburn, so I saw Michael twice in the role, but I never got to see Ashley go on. And it's funny because I was sat there in the audience last night going like, wow, he has a really Enjolras voice. So I clearly hit that on the nose. But he's so perfect for the role. I think he really understands the character of Walter. He brings this sweetness to it without ever seeming, you know, in the musical, Walter is a bit more forceful. He's a bit more proactive, maybe. He gets a bit more angry than he does in the original novel, at least early on in the show. But I liked that. I like how Ashley played it. He never lost that sense that Walter is an extremely good person, the best of people in a way, in the same way that Laura and Marian are. And I just felt like his voice was perfect for it. He totally brought me to tears at parts. I'm so impressed. I saved the best for last. No disrespect to the others, but I feel like Carolyn Maitland is the star of this show. She plays Marian, and she plays it beautifully, even if there is a part of me that thinks it's quite funny because Marian is described as not being good looking in the book, and then we have this gorgeous woman, Carolyn, and I'm like, But no, Carolyn is so good at it. She brings the strength to Marian. Her voice is insane. She's so good in the role, and I really hope that this role gets her the credit that she deserves, because I do feel like she's been a bit overlooked perhaps in the past with the roles that she's played, so I really hope that this kind of shoots her on her way to stardom, because she so deserves it. Her voice is incredible, like I said. Her acting is so good. She brought me to tears so many times. There is a scene, I don't want to like give too much away, so I'm trying to word this carefully, where Marian and Laura are reunited after being apart from each other. And I was sobbing because just both Carolyn and Anna O'Byrne's acting was so good. But yeah, I can't wait to go see her performance again. I'm so impressed. Like, I knew that she was going to be good, but I didn't know how well she was going to embody Marian Holcomb. One of my favorite parts in the whole show actually is one of her lines. So it's at a part where it kind of looks like all hope is lost, like everything has gone to hell. And Laura's kind of freaking out. She's like, we can't fight back against them. There's nothing that we can do. These men are going to ruin us. etc., etc. And Marian says, "We will not be victims, Laura. We will right this wrong." And I thought that that was so powerful. Like, honestly, the show does have this powerful message in a way of that if someone has been wronged, if someone has done something bad, you have to keep fighting. And if you keep fighting, you can win and you can right the wrong and you can bring justice to people. And I just thought that line, "We will not be victims, Laura," it floored me, to be honest. And Carolyn's delivery of it was perfect. It was so great to get to see the first show of something. The night that I went Monday was the first preview. It's really exciting for me, actually, because while I've been in London, I've seen the last show of something. I saw the closing show of Queen Anne at the Theatre Royal Haymarket, and now I've seen the opening of something, which is The Woman in White, and that's such a cool thing. That was something that I kind of wanted to like check off my bucket list. So it was great. They got an immediate standing ovation from the crowd. The theater wasn't super full, but everyone who was there really seemed to love it. I was trying to like listen on my way out to see what the reaction was, and everyone seemed super pleased with it. I heard several people be like, "Yeah, I definitely want to come back." So hopefully the run does super well. It's only here for 12 weeks, like I said, so definitely get your tickets while you can. I highly recommend that you go see the musical. I also highly recommend that you read this book. This gorgeous edition is actually just £6, which isn't bad. Okay, my camera cut out, and it's probably because I've been talking forever, so I am going to wrap this up because I don't want it to be like a 40-minute video. But as I was saying, if you've read the book or seen the show or listened to the cast album, please talk to me down in the comments down below because I want to talk to everyone about this show and this book because I love it so, so much. Also, feel free to follow me on social media. I have links to everything down below, but I'm at NicoleAdwing16 on both Twitter and Instagram. If you're not already subscribed to me, please do hit the subscribe button because I would love to make it to 250 subscribers before the end of the year. That would make me so happy. That's the Christmas gift that I want. And also, if you want to be notified whenever I upload, which is right now typically twice a week, then hit the little bell icon down below. Otherwise, I will see you all again soon, and thank you so much for watching. Bye! Sorrow. How can I face life without you or even tomorrow?